I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate. Back again with another preview video. This time we're taking a look at Doomlings, a delightful card game for the end of the world. Doomlings, as I just said, is a card game in which you are playing traits, trying to build up your trait pile to score you the most points while at the same time sabotaging the other players. Let's go ahead and take a look at it on the table. Alright, I have Doomlings, a delightful card game for the end of the world, on the table here. This is a very simple little card game. There's not very many rules to it, so this shouldn't be too long to explain to you guys how this works. Everyone is going to have one of these gene pool cards, which basically determines how many cards you are allowed to have in your hand at the end of your turn. And everyone's going to start the game with the 5 showing face up. And so you'll put that on the table in front of you like so. And throughout the course of the game, certain events are going to have you either increase that a certain number, in which case you would just turn it to face the direction in which your correct gene pool is, or it will have you decrease it, and this can go all the way down to 1, or it can go all the way as high as 8. And so that is just a way to track it throughout the course of the game. Now, the main thing throughout this game is that you are going to have age cards come up that are going to determine what happens that round. And there's going to be different events that happen. To set up the game, you're always going to have this Birth of Life card be on top of the age deck. And it always has you set your gene pool to 5, and until the end of the game, World's End, everyone's going to play 1 trait each turn and then stabilize at the end of your turn. And that's pretty much the gist. You play 1 trait card and you stabilize, which stabilizes get back to your gene pool size. So in this case, it would be 5. And so you're going to put this on top of your age deck, which your age deck is constructed of, these are normal age cards. And so you can see how many different ones there are here. There's a whole bunch. So the replayability in this game is amazing. And each of these do different things, such as reforestation, traits in your trait pile cannot be swapped, stolen, or discarded. Glacial drift, you may only play traits with a face value of 3 or lower. Alien Terraform, you may discard any dominant trait cards from your hand and stabilize immediately. And so these cards just do a whole bunch of different things. Anyhow, you'll shuffle this up and you're going to deal out 3 different piles of 3 cards each. And so that's very simple done right there. And then you will take this deck of cards, which contain age cards as well. However, these are catastrophes. And so catastrophes are going to have you do something extra. You are going to change your gene pool based off of what's written here on this card. And then you'll do the event that's listed underneath that. Now, you're going to have 3 of these throughout the course of the game. You're going to put 1 in each one of these piles and then shuffle those piles up, put 1 on top of the other. And when the 3rd catastrophe comes out, you are going to do the World's End right here, because the game's immediately going to end at that point. And so, for instance, Nuclear Winter says, discard 1 colorless trait from your trait pile. Or perhaps Ice Age, World's End, -1 for every red trait in your trait pile. AI Takeover, colorless traits are now worth 2. Ignore all colorless trait effects. And so there's all sorts of different events here that could happen. You won't know what those are until they come up, because you randomly put 3 in these piles, like I said, and then mix these up and put them on top of one another like so. And that's your age deck. Now, that kind of gives you an idea of how many rounds there could still be left in the game. And then for what you are doing most of the time, you are going to be drawing cards out of this giant deck of trait cards. Now, let me go over what some of these trait cards look like. You're going to have them come in mostly one of these 4 colors here, purple, green, blue, or red. And they're all going to give you a certain number of points listed here in the bottom left corner. And so all these cards give you 1 point. And most of them are going to allow you to do some sort of special action. So for instance, Impatience allows you to draw 3 cards. Mighty Roar, opponents discard 2 cards from their hand at random. And Saliva, +1 gene pool, so that can change your gene pool there. Trunk, pick up the last discarded card and add it to your trait pile. Ignore its action. So that's what some of these cards do. Now, some of them are going to be colorless, and the reason why we have colorless cards in the game is because the colors are important. There are cards that play off of the different colors, as you can see in some of those age cards, having you discard certain colors from your trait pile. Your trait pile is just the area right in front of you where you're going to be playing your cards. Now, there are some cards that give you points based off of other things that you have, such as Swarm. You can see there's not a number listed here, and that's because the value is equal to the number of Swarm traits in play, including this one. So this value can change throughout the course of the game. Now, there are special cards here that are called dominant cards, and they have the special gold border around them. And you can only have 2 of these in front of you throughout at any point in the game. And so to give you an example of what these cards do, immunity here gives you 3 points, and it says your negative point traits are now have a face value of 1. So there are trait cards that have negative values listed here that give you really cool abilities that oftentimes hurt other players, but you have to pay for it. Well, this card would allow you to get a positive number for playing this. Viral here doesn't give you any points. However, at World's End, choose a color. Opponents receive -1 for each trait of that color in their trait pile. So some pretty cool cards here that really affect other players. Now, as I said, the game goes until you get to the 3rd catastrophe in this deck. And so you'll flip a card over, and this one says High Tides. If you play a trait with no effects, you may play another trait with no effects, allowing you to play 2 cards. Normally, you can only play 1. And so you'll just keep flipping this deck over once per round, and then you'll come to a catastrophe, and you'll keep going. And then again, once you get to the 3rd catastrophe, which happens to be at the bottom of the deck here, retrovirus, then the game will immediately end after you do World's End, and then everyone will add up their points, see who has the most points, and that is how you play Doomlings. All right, we're back, and right now we're going to share our thoughts on this game. Sam, what did you think about Doomlings?
Oh, when you first told me it was a card game about the end of the world, I wasn't really sure what to think. I typically do like card games, but the theme wasn't super appealing. But it's funny. It's a fun play on the end of the world. Right. The cards are hilarious, and really it was a fun game. It was a really fun game. It was challenging, but not so much that I felt like, you know, I wouldn't get it. I mean, our 8-year-old played with us, and he got it. He needed some assistance, but he got it. But I really enjoyed it, and I would love to play it again.
Yeah, you mentioned that the cards are really funny.
Yeah.
Not only is the flavor text on the cards just hilarious, but the artwork is pretty funny too. I mean, there are some cards that the name of the trait with the artwork just pair so well together. Yeah. Both the graphic design, the artist, the designer of the game, they all worked very well in tandem with one another on this game. I think it's a very cool project. The game mechanics, you know, it's very simple. Flip over an age card. Everybody has to respond to that.
Yeah.
Pick the best card that works for you at that time, or maybe for your overall strategy through the course of the game. I mean, it's that simple. This isn't a deep, complex game.
No, but at the same time, you say that it's not a, I feel like you could still have people over just to play this game. Yeah. It stands on its own. Most of our card games, we would say it's a good starter, and that's what we've said a lot in the past. But I do think you could have this game and have people over and just play this.
Just play this. Yeah. And you probably play it more than once.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because the more you play it, we've only played it a handful of times, and every time it's a little bit different, and you want to change your strategy a little bit.
And that trait deck is, I mean, it's massive. There's so many cards in it, you're not going to get through all the cards in one play.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to play it some more and explore what other cards are in that deck, because they're awesome cards.
Yeah. And I do think it would be fun. We've only played it with 3 players, and how many is it?
You can play it all the way up to 6 players.
I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, imagine the chaos that ensues in 6 players.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, this game is fun at 2 players as well. It's kind of a back and forth, like, oh yeah, you're going to do that to me, well, I'm going to do that to you, or look how good I can make my trait pile. Well, look how good I can make mine. Like it's just kind of a cool back and forth at 2 players. So.
Yeah, and the points at the end really surprised. I mean, it was actually pretty close, even without us paying a whole lot of attention. It's too hard to pay attention to what the other person has at all times.
Yeah.
Because there's so many cards, and this one may get you this many points, and this one gets you so many depending on these many cards. So
right.
You're just playing to the best of your ability and hoping at the end it works out for you. But it was a very close game.
Yeah, definitely so. Very competitive in that too, that, you want to try to do the best for yourself each turn. And so you're weighing your options between your hand of cards, and you're trying to decide, should I lower my gene pool because this card gives me 4 points?
Yeah.
Do I really want to do that? Because that might limit my chances later on in the game. Or do I want to take this card here that only gives me 1 or 2 points but doesn't do anything to my gene pool, or maybe it increases it? So cool choices like that throughout the course of the game. Now, I will say that this is one that it has the perfect balance between that chaos of a lighthearted, zany type game, but also with the extreme player interaction and just the cool mechanics of a meteor game.
Yeah.
It just has a cool combination between those two things. And so I think this is a perfect game that ties in gamers and non-gamers.
Yeah,
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, completely. I do think it's one that a non-gamer could easily come in and learn and enjoy it. But I do think it's one that if you just have a group of non-gamers, I think that they could enjoy it as well.
Yeah, I think this is going to be that game that you're going to be in Target walking down the board game aisle. You'll see it on a shelf and you'll say, hey, that's a really cool looking box. And it's a small, tiny box at that. So many people are going to just grab this not knowing what it is, open it up, and be pleasantly surprised with it.
It's definitely something we're going to keep on our shelf.
Yeah, this is going to be a big hit. I'm so glad that we got a chance to review it, and we highly recommend it. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, there you guys go. That's Doomlings, a delightful card game for the end of the world.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
All right, I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.